All right, everybody, welcome back to the Reel Down on Paddle and Fin. We'll give it just a minute here before we get started.
Like and share.
Yeah, like and share. How you doing, brother?
I'm tired. How about you?
Yeah, you've been working hard, huh?
No, it was the long vacation. A lot of driving.
It's always
working hard.
Yeah, it's hard to come back. Hey, Todd. And so tonight, the couple of people that we're going to have on, y'all already seen it. If you have any questions, if you were there, please ask those questions, like and share. Just share it away.
If you got anything bad to say about them, I'd like to see that too. Let's let them.
Yeah, let's talk smack. That's always fun. No, don't do that.
Nah, bring it. Come on.
Yeah, why not? All right.
It's Monday.
Yeah, that's right. So without further ado, we have the two winners from the KBF Northeast Region Tournament on Lake George up in New York. We have Saturday's winner, Brian Matylewicz.
There you go.
There he is. And Sunday's winner, Mike Morcone.
What's up, gentlemen?
What's up? How y'all doing,
What's going on? Good.
Oh, Lord, we already got Mr. Dark Waters himself in here.
Who didn't use a drop shot?
I did.
I would, if I was up there, that'd probably be the only thing I could catch fish on.
That's all I brought. Not all I brought. Pre-fishing, we tried everything, and by day two, I was like, I brought an extra rod just in case. I had 3 drop shot rods. Wasn't even thinking about using anything else. You know, it was pretty much all I got them on. I couldn't make anything else work. You know.
Is that a big clear fishery up there?
Oh,
crystal
super clear. Yeah. You could see like rocks down like 15, 20 feet in certain spots. You know, it was super like chin clear. You know,
we've got a lake down here that gets like that, but it's probably like 10-foot visibility. I've only got to fish like that once. I'd like to fish some more stuff like that just to figure it out.
Jim Strunk, he's had some good events lately. Catherine Field, she's everywhere. She's everywhere in the country all at one time.
She is.
All right, so we'll start with you, Mike. Tell us a little bit about yourself. So for anybody that doesn't know yet, and how you got into kayak fishing.
Well, I'm sure not too many people know me yet. Got into kayak fishing. You know, I fished my whole life. Started when I was, like 2 years old. You know, my father tournament fished. Just always loved fishing, love hunting, love all that. And you know, I kind of have too many hobbies probably. So ironically, when I had a little kid, you know, I used to always go to the Cape. I'd be on the ocean doing hunting trips, everything, you know. And it was kind of like when I had a kid that I joined Annie Bassin, which is a local club. Like we were talking a little before, you know, saying, you know, guys like Brundle, guys like Cone. Tons of local guys, good guys came out of there that are fishing KBF. You know, I started with them. Just because I didn't really have time to do all the travel, all that. And really what got me into it is a lot of the Greg Blanchard videos. You know, I'd see him on YouTube, and I was like, I was never into the kayak thing. And I was like, that looks like a lot of fun, you know. And I was like, I think I can win some of those maybe. You know, I've fished my whole life. I love fishing. It's used to be like all I did, you know. And ironically, having a kid, you know, kind of gave me less time to do all the other wild stuff, and that's where I dove into this a little bit. So,
and how old's your kid?
He's a 3-year-old now. So he came. You know, we had an adventure with him. He came early, so it was super touch and go for a while. You know, he's in the NICU for almost 2 months and on oxygen when he came home. I mean, it was crazy. And if you saw him now, like you would never know. You know, so things got a little hairy for a while there, and it was a little touch and go. You know, but as things normalized, you know, we got to do some of this. And that was kind of like, honestly, it was a bit of stressful time. So it was kind of like an outlet, go out and compete a little bit, like just release a little bit, you know. And but a lot of it was like stuff like this too, like shows. And, you know, now we're getting podcasts and the YouTube. And it was like, man, that just looks cool. Like I never really spent much time, you know, I didn't really even hear about KBF till some of those shows and all that other stuff. So the exposure is awesome. I mean, it's getting guys like myself and I'm sure a lot of other guys into it. And now I love it. I mean, I can't imagine not doing it. You know, it's a blast.
I would love to see a graphic of how many people Greg Blanchard has actually like brought into kayak fishing.
Yeah.
I'm sure he doesn't
He just got, speaking of KBF, he just got third in the Super Trail this weekend out on Clear Lake. Russ Slatter
on it. Third, day 1, day 2, and overall.
Wow.
Yeah, he's not only is a YouTube, and we've had him on, but he's exactly the same guy, great guy, can fish. And, you know, how many people, like you just said, how many people has he influenced? He's done a lot for our sport.
I mean, like you were just saying, like I literally didn't know anything about KBF until I watched his stuff. Like,
yep. And it just like, it's something about, I don't even know what's different about his stuff. You know, it's just like, it just keeps it simple and it's like more pure, I guess. And he just seems like, I don't know. There's just something about it that just works, you know, and it's, I mean, good editing and all that. Some of the videos you watch, like, you don't really know what they're putting together, you know, but it's,
his isn't forced. Yeah. It's not.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
It's the good and the bad.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people miss that, you know, because we all go out there and slay them every time. There's just as many bad days usually as there are good.
Yeah. No, I've had some bad events for sure. So,
amen.
You know, yeah.
And where do you live?
I live in Grafton, Massachusetts. So it's Central Mass, for like half an hour outside of Boston, maybe a little more.
Okay.
Yep.
And what kind of boat are you out of? That's something we'd like to ask everybody.
So I was in a Titan. So I did the Susquehanna event in a Titan, and between now and then, I bought a it wasn't.
That was enough.
And, that's all you got to say. And between then and now, I bought a Sportsman with the autopilot, which I'll tell you right now, played a huge part in what happened this weekend. You know? You really can't. With that spot lock, like being in deep water and especially the waves and how nasty it was, like I just could not have done that in a pedal drive. I really don't think so. You know,
well, go ahead. I mean, shout them out, man. I'm sure they want to hear you.
Yeah.
I can't think anybody's got any top spots in their boats.
Oh my God, that's I'm telling you, the thing's awesome too. Like I'm not sponsored, nothing, you know. I just like that. It's an awesome boat. It really did help me. And I think, I mean, Ryan, don't you have one too, or
same boat.
Yeah. Wow. So big day for them, I guess. Free advertising. There you go.
What size batteries are you all using with the wind? Were you running out? I know that's a question I see a lot on online forums, and I'm getting into the motor part too. But like for a full day with the wind, trying to stay on a spot with spot lock, what kind of battery are you using?
I'm literally running with the Amped Outdoors battery. I have the 100 amp hour, and
100.
I burned, man. I'll tell you, you have to try real hard to kill that battery. I must have ran 10 miles just looking for individual fish, and never ever have I run out of juice. Just runs all day.
I have the same setup. Yep, same thing. And I was shocked. I mean, there's a meter that you can push. I don't know how accurate it is, but there would be times like the end of the day it would say, and I'd run it all day, you know, with spot lock. So it was on like some speed. And then, you know, I wasn't making long runs because I had a certain area I was in, but I was still moving around quite a bit, you know, from hump to hump. And like the end of the day, it'd be like 50% according to that meter. So I never even came close to burning it out. And, you know, you guys know probably Conan, friend of Brundle's, and both super good guy. I was talking to them at the campsite because I think Brundle may be sponsored with Amped or whatever. And Conan was saying he ran it for 2 full days, like 2 full tournaments, like running it, and never burned it out. So, I mean, and, you know, for the price, it's a great little battery, you know, so.
Yeah, the lithiums, they, like, I'm electrician or whatever, like, so this kind of stuff, like, nerds me out. But, like, the output and the, like, I'm trying not to do this too nerdy where I just, like, lose everybody. But the output versus like the resistance values that they can handle and just everything is so impressive. Like I run a Bioino 100 amp hour, and I ran it against current. Like I wish I knew how. I mean, it was flowing. We're talking like a 30-foot wide river flowing 970 CFS all day, and I ran it. I never took that thing off full speed unless I was using it kind of like spot lock to hold. And when I got back, I just put a multimeter on it, and it had dropped 1 volt over 7 hours.
It's crazy. It really
and for anybody that's listening that doesn't know why you should go lithium, just really quick, a lithium battery. So if you use like a lead acid battery, as it drains down, you lose power. a lithium battery will give you 100% of its power output until it turns off.
And not to mention weighs like 25 pounds too. So
That's
it's like,
I could care less about the other facts. The weight
it's
was
crazy. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're expensive, but it really, like, if you're going to do it all the time, and it really is worth its weight in gold. Like, it's just, I mean, the power is unreal. Like, I was just shocked because I'm relatively new with it. I'm like, I don't know if the meter is that accurate, and I'm out there. I'm like, the last thing I want to do is pedal back where I am, and like the waves, like really, I can't like, explain to you well enough how nasty it kind of got. I mean, there was water coming over the front, draining out, and it definitely got pretty sketchy at times. And I'm just like, please don't die. And I mean, never did it even get close. I mean, so it's pretty impressive. It's awesome technology. So, and it helps. So,
yeah, and it's
All right,
only getting better.
Yeah.
How about you, bud? Tell us about
I saw a
you got
question in
into
there real
catfish?
quick. A question there with Josh Smith. My dad did fish with us, so just to answer that real quick. But going back to the same thing, getting kayak fishing 2 years ago is when I first started. I ended up getting a Hobie Pro Angler 14. My dad got and I got him kind of at the same time, and then we just got him to be fun. Honestly, we had no idea about the tournament aspect of it or anything. We're on the Susquehanna River in northeast Pennsylvania. We just thought it'd be fun just to have them, and we thought kicked around the idea of getting a boat, and decided the kayaks would be kind of cool. We had the littler, smaller type, like the typical creek kayaks, and so we ended up doing that. And then 2 years ago, we ended up going down to Kentucky and fished the Hobie Open on the Kentucky Lake. Zero showing, man. I went out there having no idea, never fished a tournament in my life. Went out there, we struggled trying to find something, and kind of got the itch there. We ended up going fishing the Hobie event then also in Lake St. Clair, and it was just a lot of travel, a lot of different stuff. And then we ended up getting in last year into the KBF. We fished the whole trail and had a lot of fun doing that. And then this year I made a change. I got rid of that Hobie. That's when I transitioned and got that Old Town Autopilot. And man, I'll tell you, that boat is just incredible. I have it set up with 100 amp hour lithium battery from Amped Outdoors, and in the back I actually wired in, because I run a Garmin Live Scope too, which was also critical in the success of me actually finding them fish. And I have an actual backup 60 amp hour. I'm sponsored with them as well, with Amped Outdoors, so they take care of me. I had a backup switch that he told me I was crazy when I was trying to set this up too, and I absolutely don't need it. But I had one of this. I'm like, all right, man, I'm running a 12-inch graph. I have the Live Scope box, all this stuff, and I'm just petrified of this. And never has anything ever died. And I think once I forgot to charge the battery, and it ended up dying, and I just kick a little breaker switch and it runs back to the 60, and then I'm good to go. So I can literally never have any kind of battery concerns while I'm out there. So it's just an incredible boat.
I've been wanting to get. I have a 30 and a 100. I've been debating on getting like a 50 or 60 as like a secondary battery, just to do like you said.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Mike mentioned, it's not a terrible idea. And I'll tell you, if my battery died out there, I might have just just jumped out of the boat and floated back to shore, because I wasn't. there's no way I wasn't paddling that thing. And to be completely honest, in the Susquehanna event, I lost my paddle, and I actually went out. I didn't even bring a paddle.
I did too. I swear to. I jumped out of the boat in the day I got 11th. I jumped right out, tied. I took a rod leash, tied it around my waist, and just started walking up the river. I saw all the jet boats up there. I'm like, all right, this is where I need to be, and I can't get up there. And then, towards the end of the day, I look back. I'm like, oh my god, I don't have a paddle. And they literally had a sign warning about sewage. So I was like, I'm literally up the creek without a paddle. I'm like, dude. I'm like, how am I gonna get out of here? And it was kind of crazy, But that's funny. You lost yours too. That event was crazy.
Yeah.
Man.
That was nuts. And I'll tell you that the Hobie one was even worse because you couldn't have a motor. So I took actually my mom's kayak, and I'm like, man, how am I gonna do this? She has a 10-foot Old Town, the PDL, and I actually mounted on the front of her kayak my power pole off my boat. So then I was fishing the dam down there, and I just literally was sitting in the current with the power pole spike in the front, just throwing into the dam. And I ended up catching a lot of fish, a couple muskie, and had a good finish just out of the money on both of those events. But man, that was just a tough time. I mean, you're in like a foot of water that whole event down there, and it's just it just beats. You want to ruin a drive on a kayak, man. That's where you do it for sure.
Yeah.
All right. So so for everybody that hadn't been to Lake George, including me and Jimmy, can one of y'all kind of give us a layout, give us a rundown of the lake and what it's all about?
Yeah, I mean it's a clear water lake. I've never even known something like this existed. This water is like bath water, so you can look down. If it was like ice, and I talked to some ice fishermen up there, and that were like real into it in the wintertime. They say when it freezes over, when you get that first glassy ice before like it gets all the chop and stuff in it, you can go out and see like lake trout in like 40, 50 foot. That's the visibility, and drill a hole over top of them and drop down to them and catch them and pull them up through the ice. That's how what kind of clear water this is. I mean, it is crystal clear.
Yeah.
Wow.
I could see fish as they were coming up like 10 feet down, puking like almost 10, 15 feet. You could see them like throwing up whatever they were, they were just like gorging, and it was like, but I mean, that clear where you could see like little specks like 10 feet down, and it was just like, I mean, you could see the fish like when it was calm, like a long way down when it was coming up, and it kind of added an element too, where like, if you knew it was a good one, it was definitely made it a little more tense. And the top, like, I don't know if you guys followed, but I mean, it was like super close both days, like under a couple inches, like in people with 15-inch fish to get rid of, so it was like anybody from like 1 to probably like 8 or even 10 had a like legitimate shot both days, so it was like real tense, like, and
Well,
so it's a cool place.
I'll give all the numbers here so Saturday you won. Ryan had 90 anglers. You had 86 and a half. Derek Brundle got second with 85 and 3/4. Ryan Havlick and third with 85 inches. And Mike, you had 84 and 1/4. So you were only 2.5 inches back in sixth. So the links were definitely stacked. And on Sunday, still had 62 anglers, which is a lot for the Sunday KBF tournament, seems like, and that's still a big number. Mike, you got first. The links went down just a little, 83 and a half. Ryan Havlick, again, he got third to first day, second to second, and he had 82 and 3/4. Matthew Zapala in third with 82 and 1/4, and then Ryan, you were a little bit lower at 21st.
Yeah, made a couple bad decisions on the second day. That's for sure.
Something that I noticed Something I noticed when I was going over the numbers is you had a lot of anglers and a lot of fish caught, but each day only a third of the anglers limited out. So was it pretty tough both days?
I think the best way to explain that, and I think Michael will agree, is it wasn't that the bite wasn't good. It was just that trying to get a bait in front of a fish in 30 foot of water with the water conditions, with all the boaters and everything that was going on, and try and actually keep a bait still enough for a fish to eat it was just that was the challenge in itself, and the fish, there was a lot of anglers beating the shoreline, and maybe some of them caught fish. I just wasn't seeing it. And the people that were catching fish looked loony, they were like out in the middle of the ocean, if you will, just chilling in 30 feet. The bass were 30 feet of water, probably like, sometimes they were in 30 feet of water, and then other times they were in 30 feet of water and 50 foot of water. I even caught some in 80 foot of water, suspended up 30 feet.
Wow.
So because we're talking about that, and we already were talking about, Mike, you were using drop shot. What were you, if you want to talk about it?
No, absolutely. I'm not shy, but it was 100% drop shot the entire time. I mean, I didn't catch. No, I caught a fish on a couple of fish on the crankbait pre-fishing. I caught a largemouth, like a pretty good sized largemouth on a crankbait, but basically for the tournament, I switched 100% to smallmouth. I didn't even see side or tail of a largemouth. It was all smallmouth 100%.
What's your go-to setup for your drop shot? Like you were saying, fishing that deep and trying to keep it still.
Yeah, so 100%. The bass, the smaller bass, like kind of what I was catching on day two, all seemed to be schooled up, and they were on points and just the traditional type stuff. And they were showing themselves pretty well. They were basically suspended up in the water. So I saw them on my graph. Day one, the reason I was able to really put it together is where I was fishing. I was literally targeting out one individual fish on my live scope, like rolling around, just trolling. I'd see one fish and literally cast 30, 40 feet to that one fish. It would drop down. I'd sit there and play with him in 30 foot of water, and he would just bite, and that was game on. And that's what killed me day 2 is I didn't make the adaptation, and they actually were still in 30 foot of water, but they weren't out in 50 foot. They were up in 30 foot on the bottom. And I found that out a little bit too late, and it was too tough to kind of catch. When I had one good one on the second day, it was 18 plus for sure. Literally caught it, pulled it out of the water, jumped into the net, and I kind of went to do a fist pump. It jumped back out of the net, swam down, and pulled like when you tail hook a carp. I don't know if you ever did that. It just kind of my spool is just ripping. And that thing is like, no way, man, I'm not interested in this. And he just dove to the bottom, and it just it pulled drag for solid probably 30 seconds. And then it just came
what you're
off.
about. I'm out of here.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not into this.
So what's your setup? Rod, reel, line, weight.
Yeah, so I had a couple spinning rods, and I kind of do this thing where I say I'm only going to bring 1 or 2 rods because I know this is the thing, and I end up with 5 to 6 rods in my boat anyway, and don't throw half of them. But two spinning rods. I had the primary one I was using was a St. Croix with and I had a Shimano Stratic reel on it, and I was basically running 20-pound braid, but I probably had like a 30 foot, 40 foot fluorocarbon leader on it, and I was running 10-pound sniper on that.
There you go.
For that clear water, did you feel like you need to have a longer leader than normal?
Honestly, I don't think the braid was even necessary because I just felt like it had to be straight fluorocarbon, and I don't really think you're getting the response from the braid because I had so much fluoro out there. So it's probably just an unnecessary knot. You could probably spool it up with straight fluoro, but it's just kind of what I had on at the time, so I stuck with it.
How heavy of a drop shot weight were you having to use?
I was using quarter ounce.
Quarter, yeah. I don't think I've ever went any bigger than that. So
no.
What's kind of your thought on the different? That's one thing I've never figured out, like the teardrop, the cylindrical, the ball.
Yeah, I don't know if it necessarily matters. Maybe people I don't really have a preference on it. I have a preference on tungsten versus lead because, I mean, not so much the sensibility, just for the size. I think the tungsten's a lot smaller. I had a lot of fish actually hitting that tungsten too, though. They'd see it going down and like they were actually smacking it. And again, live scope and on the Garmin and the 12-inch graph, I could see everything that was going on,
Well, Dan, if you need to know, I did an episode on the Bass Fishing for Noobs about drop shot, and I talked about all of my experiments with those weights.
But yeah, I was actually using the teardrop basically style is what I was using in the quarter.
It's probably my favorite too. It just seems that I have the most success and the least problems with that one.
Yeah. What do you use, Mike?
Yeah. Similar setup. I mean, I actually like the high vis yellow. So I was dead sticking. First of all, for a rod, I had E6X 7 medium and
big money.
I love spin. I'm like a finesse. I love finesse fishing. So I'd rather just like, if I'm going to really have one. And then I use the CI4 for the reel, Shimano, which I just, man, I love that reel. It's awesome. So I had 15-pound braid, high vis yellow, which actually, not that you wouldn't have been able to see anyway, but that helped me a lot because there were, so I tied a longer leader, but not as long as what Ryan did. I was probably more, like 18 inches, something like that. Maybe a little longer, give or take. But there, I was like literally, I mean, I was dead stick, I was getting bites with the least amount of action possible. It was like if I would just let it soak, I mean, even like 5 minutes at a time, which was hard to do. It was like, cause you get an attorney and you're trying to rush, and you're trying to be efficient, and trying to make a lot of and whatever. So it's kind of counterintuitive to just slow yourself down and be like, all right. So the other issue, I was using quarter ounce, just like him. I switched to 3/8 on day 2. Not sure if it made a difference because I caught a ton of fish both days, like 20 plus both days, but that high vis yellow, like I would to keep it on the bottom because of the waves and the chop. Plus I was drifting and, all that. There was even times where I was just flipping the bail and watching the line. And when it was, I could see because of the high vis would start to, swim off. I would just flip the bail and just reel into them, not even hit them too hard. I was using same leader. I had 10-pound on. I was thinking of going lighter, just with it being that clear. But I'm
surprised to hear that from both of you. You hear everybody talk about 6. And
no way, I can't do that, man. I'm like a 12 guy.
If you can get away with it, it's like I just do not want to lose fish in a turn. But I was, it was an idea that I was thinking about, in practice. But I was getting I caught a couple 19s on the spot that I won the I fished that spot that I won for like an hour in practice, and I graphed so many fish, caught 2 19s and a 16, and I was like, done. I'm like, this is it. And then I was just looking for plan B in case somebody else had that figured out. Friday, Ryan can probably tell you too, the wind was just like nuts. And so anyone that went up there Friday and tried to pre-fish probably had a nightmare of a time. If the tournament was Friday, I don't think we could have been offshore like that. I mean, it was blowing hard. Maybe, but it would have been sketchy. So Friday I went out there super early before the wind picked up. Didn't even drop a line in, just graphed. Tried to mark all the humps. I was, you could see on side imaging, there'd be spots where it was rocky. It's just kind of like you just mega schools of fish, like tons of bait, tons of fish. And like, I thought something Ryan said that was interesting. In practice, everywhere I went, I was finding where I'd find these giant schools. I get a bunch of 13 inchers, and then I'd find these subtle, like little wolf packs. And that would always be, and usually closer to the bottom too. And that tended to be my bigger bites, where those little more subtle, like off the main action, and definitely with like rocky bottoms. And then there was some grass where I was too, in like 30 feet of water. There, I was bringing it up on the drop shot, and that's where I found a lot of largemouth, So, but where I was had like everything mixed in. I mean, you catch rock bass. I had bluegill, largemouth, smallies. I mean, it was just like a lot of life there, and it was just really found a great spot, really. I went there 2 days.
When you went for it, were you targeting smallmouth, kind of like Ryan was talking about, or were you just whatever gets on the end of it?
So, well, it was a mix, like all along. Like everywhere I went, I kind of caught both, to be honest with you. Like I saw a few guys on top that had strictly smallies, and I'm sure there were humps that, but where I was, it was just like mixed in, and a few other spots I tried were mixed. But I think the depth was like critical. It's my buddies are all in a gambling chat, and they're all watching, making fun of me.
There you go. You're hot, Mike. Sorry, I don't know who Rebecca Alvarez is, but
yeah, no, that's kind of the truth though. With the smallmouth, they were up on top, and that's all I could find up there, and they were just roaming, man. The big ones were roaming. I found schools and schools, and I like I said, I covered like 4 or 5 near me.
Yeah, we can hear you. It's Mike. We can't hear him.
I think we lost Mike.
Yeah, go ahead and get all the way out. Come back in, Mike. There he goes.
But yeah, so that was the story up there. It was just the smallmouth were roaming around. The big ones were isolated by themselves, and all the spots you would normally fish without electronics, you were just catching dinks, and that was the case, or not catching nothing. Bunch of guys were fishing the same spot I fished, and they unfortunately didn't have such a good day. They were like banging the bank and just doing traditional bass fishing type stuff. It's just unnatural being out that deep trying to fish. You're just, if you have no electronics, no screen, it's just like you're out in an ocean just throwing your line. I just don't know how anybody could do it.
Do you think, let's say you didn't have the live scope, do you think you could have done it with any other setup?
Yeah, well, honestly, KBF still kind of permits like trolling. They're one of the only divisions that do it. That'd be really the only way, is kind of dropping down. Like if you were to drop down like a downrigger, for instance, and get something down, like a bait down, that was the hardest thing. They'd eat anything, but like how do you effectively fish a bait in 30 foot of water? And you can do it, right? You can talk about it, but to fish a 3-inch bait in that deep of water, you're going to put a tungsten heavy enough to get down there, and it's going to oversize and overpower the bait. Like it's twice the size of the bait. It's just not reasonable,
And I think that's kind of the, like Mike was saying, here on Tennessee River, they, in the early summer, whenever they first get out on ledges and they get deep and things like that, it seems like they'll all be bunched up and they're just getting out there. They're still dumb, but kind of once the summer gets on a little bit further, it's the smaller, like he was saying, wolf packs. Those are you said it. Those are usually the bigger fish. They kind of get off those bigger groups and they get a little bit smarter. They're not always on the most obvious stuff.
Yeah, it was strange, man. Though that spot, like, I definitely didn't capitalize as much as I could have. I definitely could have had a bigger bag, like pre-fishing there. And the first day of pre-fishing, I literally got to this spot, and it was actually first day of pre-fishing was Thursday, and I struck out. Like I caught a couple fish, but it was like not good. Friday, when it was terrible conditions, I ended up getting out to the spot I ended up fishing for the tournament, and I was out on the lake for maybe 5 minutes. My buddy didn't even get his boat in yet, who was with me, and I was out there, and by the time he came over, I already had the fish. Man, I rolled over, I saw it on the graph, I drop shot it down, and I pulled up. It was over 5 pounds. I didn't have a scale with me, but 20.5-inch smallmouth. And man, the fish up there were just eating. They were just thick. They looked like slabs. And I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool. I didn't know if it was a one-off. And then I went a couple seconds, pulled up like another one that was like 18, then pulled up like another one that was, I'm like, all right, I'm done fishing over here. I'm trying to figure out some other stuff. And then I got a little distracted because I did well, and we caught him, and a couple other guys were fishing there, and I ended up making a run across the lake. And every time I did do that, it was a couple miles, and if you're only doing 3 miles an hour with the trolling motor, it literally ate up just a ton of time. And that's what happened day 2. Is that spot seemed like it was a little played out. I thought that the fish had moved out, but I think they actually just went down to the bottom, because I found out later on my buddies picked them up and they were still catching a couple down there. But I ended up looking for a duplicate spot that looked very similar and ran across the lake for it. I just ended up chasing the clock and looking for spots and scanning when I should have just slowed down. But like I said, that kind of helped me on day 1 too, though, because everybody was stuck in that one spot, and I ended up making a move across the lake, and that's what ended up filling up those last fish I submitted that work. So I mean, sometimes it plays and sometimes it doesn't. You just gotta. That's fishing, though, I guess.
So how many people were fishing in your area? Was it?
There was like 6-7 of us.
Okay.
And you said that
first day 1, there was probably 18 people, and they all launched, and I have no idea where they even went to. They just like launched out of the same launch, and I'm not sure where they all went to, and they all just disappeared. And I was honestly like only like a couple minutes from the launch. So
you
like,
got like, oh man, everybody's here. This is going to
yeah. I thought it was going to be off when I got out there, and no one was even there where I found the big fish. So
you were talking about running across the lake, and we were kind of talking before. You said that lake's like a couple miles wide. And
yeah,
that's insane. That's intimidating.
It's nuts, and you're out there and you got the boats going across, man. There's times I'm sitting out there and I'm like not so worrisome with I'm pretty agile on the kayak and standing up and turning around and doing my thing. But like I got caught off guard a couple times where like I was like literally like one of those things like way up, like 4 footers, like just big waves that were out there. And it was kind of like when you're watching on like the Great Lakes, the MLF guys and stuff in the boats that are just taking it. It was just like
that's
that
all I
out
can
there.
picture in my head.
Yeah, it was the same thing. Yep, it was pretty wild. So
that's insane. Well, you definitely had a good day, and so you said you've never seen anything like it that clear. Is that your first time out there?
No, that's my second time.
Okay.
Which last time was last year's KBF event. There's 130 anglers. That's the one Greg Blanchard actually fished. I ended up getting 13th out of 130 in that one, so I just missed it. But that was in the spring, so that was a total different deal. Last year I was in a similar spot actually, but all my fish were on a jerkbait. They were all in like 18, not even 8 to 15 feet of water, and they were just schooled up. I had my limit there, I think, within like the first 15 or 25 minutes. We just hammered them. It was all day, like nonstop action. And that was like kind of like same story across the lake because they were just chomping. It was like the pre-spawn like feed on,
Yeah.
And now everything's obviously dog days of summer. Everything's out in the middle of the lake and just kind of cruising around.
That's definitely like my weak point. Something I want to work on is when they go offshore like that. That's just I just don't have that game yet.
Yeah,
I got the drop shot. I just don't have it offshore.
I haven't been I was never a drop shot guy. I mean, this is the first time it actually really pulled through for me. I've just never had the confidence to throw it, and I just never really delivered for me. Jerkbait's kind of probably been my go-to bait on a lot of the fisheries that I kind of run to because it just catches fish, and I can run and gun, move around a little bit, do my thing, and the drop shot just done the patience. And I'll say that the live scope from Garmin obviously definitely helped me with the confidence ability because at least I know I'm fishing for something because I can see fish down there. You can't always distinguish what they are. I mean, you start to get better with it, but I've also like sat and drop shotted like fish that were not bass and ended up pulling them up quite a few times. So it can hurt you.
I can't stand when I'm like I'll graph over a school Like we have that Clear Lake I was talking about. We have here. I'll graph over a school, drop down on them, think I'm doing it right, start feeling the bites, and start reeling up, stripe or white bass.
Yeah, I've honestly almost thought for this specific reason with the live scope. My buddy has one. I was thinking about getting. I have the bigger one for ice fishing, but I don't have a small one, an aqua view, like the little pocket size one, just so like if you when you're pre fishing stuff and you get across some of these schools, you can just drop the camera down and actually see what's going on in some of these clear lakes. Just seems like it would be a logical approach.
That's awesome. So were you dead sticking a lot too, or were you?
Yeah, I was, but I'm telling you, man, like I wasn't even so much dead sticking. They were a little more aggressive day two, I would say. But they were like, again, they're on the bottom, so they just basically shut me out because here's like the bottom when you're looking at like the graph, like electronics, like you have this flat bottom, and if there's something laying on there, you can't really see it, like you don't know it's there. But when they're like right here, it's game on. I know the fish is there. So when they go down to the bottom, it's like kind of a middle finger to me. You know what I mean? Like, so now I don't know where they're at. And my whole approach of what I was doing just kind of completely changed because I was literally specifically seeing one fish just cruising around, like, and I'd be like, boop, cast right over to it. And then if it would drop down past it. And that's where the quarter ounce was kind of effective because it fell just fast enough that the fish could like chase it down and pick it up. If it was any heavier, it would kind of just like blow right by him. And I don't think they would have had a chance to pick it up like they did. And, honestly, I think a little bit of a lighter weight would have been better, but it was just too deep, and you would have like even with the quarter, you had to wait so long for it to get down, and you would have just not got as many casts in. So I'd cast it out, I'd watch the fish, he'd follow it down to the bottom, and then he'd kind of just like, all right, he'd go back up. So then I'd kind of rip it up and just like dangle it in front of his face and just follow him all the way up. And then sometimes he'd pick it up, but a lot of the times he was grabbing it as soon as it went to the bottom. Like he'd see it fall and they'd come down. I'd just leave it sit there. They'd pick it up off the bottom, and that was it.
That's what they say, man. That's like straight video game fishing right there.
Yeah, that's how I wrote it up on my post. I mean, that's what it was. It was like playing a video game, just staring at my graph all day. I got done. I was literally fishing, like bent over and hunched up, looking at my graph, like, and that's just. I got home and I was just kind of like stiff, I'm just trying to figure. It was a long day, and the sun was against us out there for sure. I don't know if Mike could tell you when he comes back too, but man. I was just wiped out. Like day two, I think that's what kind of hurt me. Like I didn't really get as much sleep as I wanted on day one. After that tournament was over, I was kind of celebrating a little bit and just didn't get to sleep early. And I woke up and I was just sitting in that sun after 3 days of being out there. And like the fourth day, I literally at times just felt like falling out of the boat. It was just so hot, and that sun never gave up. There was never any like shade, and it was just we were in the dead center of that lake. And you're taking like literally going like this nonstop for like 8 hours on those waves, and it wears you out for sure.
Dodging pleasure boaters and jet skis.
Oh yeah. Honestly, he had it way worse than me. I mean, they were bad by me, but they weren't as bad as down where he was at.
Yeah, I'm back. What's up?
What's up?
I have no idea what happened. I'm sorry.
He had to go address some of these hot comments real quick.
Yeah.
Let me hold
that's
up.
about part of the course time-wise, too. So, yeah.
I'm blocking, throwing up eggplants and stuff up here in the comments. So
I got a big group of buddies that just been making fun of me all day about being on a podcast, and they're like, if you don't shout out the chat, we're gonna harass you to death. So, what's up? Sorry, guys. I don't mean to ruin your comment section. These guys are jerks.
No,
but hey, at least you got eyeballs. Let's go.
Yo, you could, Mike. You could have put up like a Mike joined a private chat thing or something. What's up?
I know.
Yeah. So, is there a certain drop shot bait y'all like? Or I'm curious if y'all were using the same one or
totally different. Yeah.
Well, actually, I think early on we were the same because I was mostly with the finesse shads, Z-Man, and I ran through them. I think we were both on black too because we chatted a little bit before the show, and I ran through like so many of them. I'm like, well, there's 3 bait shops, so one of them has to have, and like none of them had anything, So, but day 2, I went with I actually just started playing around with a 6-inch zoom finesse worm, just being like maybe a bigger profile or trigger a bigger bite, which I wouldn't say that it did, but they like ate the hell out of it. I mean, it was like, I caught a lot of fish day 2, and I caught so many 15 inchers and I just like could not upgrade, and I don't know if you guys follow again, the way it happened for me was like nuts. I mean, I'm sure we'll get to that, but it was like like honestly like a crazy movie or something. Like it was just nuts how it went down in the end. So um
Yeah,
so
tell us about it, man.
Take us into it. Yeah, I was about to say.
well, yeah, as you know, so like day one, I think I mentioned that, you know, it was all really close. I felt like I had a spot that could win. You know, I knew there were good fish there, and with 15 minutes left, hook into just a pig, and my gear was just beat to death. You know, I caught a lot of fish, a lot of just, you know, I should have retied at some point, but I was just like in the frenzy, you know, and it was my last one. My other two were beaten up so bad, and I lost that fish with like 15 minutes left. And again, it was a big fish. Like, I mean, took a lot of drag. I caught a few big fish over the, you know, 4 or 5 days that I was there, you know, and it was definitely a big fish that I thought, you know, I would have had a shot at first or second. So now, like, fast forward to day two, I go out, drop in, first cast, literally within like 30 seconds, catch a 16-incher. I'm like, oh, all right, here we go. Um, and then throughout the day, it was just like 15, 15, 15. Then I start to second guess. I'm like, man, you know, you're like 5 hours in. I'm like, I just don't know that I'm gonna get the big bite, you know. But then I'm thinking, what else are you gonna do? And I'm checking the standings. No one else is getting the big bite, you know. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm right there. I know these fish are here. Like I know there's a big class here. They just have to turn on. On my graph, like I could legitimately see, like you would see giant schools of like just bait, everything else, and then like swoops under it. And then there were points where I would see two schools with like swoops in the middle. Like I could see fish actively feeding, and just like it was just mayhem, you know. There were so many fish there in this one little like submerged point, you know, and it was I was more, you know, I was closer to like I was getting a lot of the better fish in like 40 feet, you know, and got plenty in 30, but anything under 30 just did not work for me, you know. It was all dinks, if anything, you know. So I went the whole day, you know, was doing well. I knew I was right there. I already had that, you know, incident the day before where I'm like, I really think that could have been a winning fish. What was it? 45 minutes left. Hook into a big one, just scream and drag. I'm like, oh yeah, okay. I'm like, this is it. Like, this is what I've been waiting for. I'm like, I know like an 18 is going to put me right there. I'm like, I don't know about the lead. I wasn't even bothering with that. I was like, but I know it's going to put me right there, you know. Get him in the boat. It was like over 18, probably like 18 and a quarter. Just say 18 for whatever, you know. Get him on the catch board. So the one drawback I would say to the Sportsman is that with my Titan, I could get the board in the floor, you know. So even if they jumped, I could still kind of like deal with it, you know. So with that, they made these slots where your catch board will like kind of fit in, which is sweet. I mean, it's secure, but the problem is you're like up on the rails. So yeah, and I usually set it up. If you look at my pictures, like you can see my net's right there. But it was like the Matrix, man. Like he jumped so hard and just it was like slow motion, missed the net and gone. And I was like I went nuts, like nuts, you know. And then at that point, I mean, it took me like 5 minutes just to get to that point, you know. So now we're at like 40 minutes left, and I'm like losing my mind, you know. I'm like so pissed off. I'm like, that was it. I can't believe it happened 2 days in a row. And then I'm like literally talking to myself out loud. I'm like, just focus. I'm like, just get back in it. Like this, you never know. Like weirder things have happened. Maybe a school moved in because this spot just like reloads, you know, there's like a lot. And I'm like, I was literally talking to myself. I'm like, stop, you know, basically stop being a bitch. Like just get back into it. Stop, like, stop crying and go, you know, it's like still time to go. So I was so flustered. I couldn't even like get my bearings, you know. I'm like trying to read the graph, like, and I'm like, all right, man, get back on the school. So like I finally just motor around. I'm like, just focus on one task, you know. So I'm like looking at the graph, find the school. I'm like, okay, there they are again, you know, and drop down. Now there's about 30 minutes left. And I'm like, there's no way, you know, I just worked 7.5 or however many hours it is, I don't know, to get that one big bite. No chance. I'm like slim to none. And go down there, hook into one, doesn't feel that big. I get him like a few feet, and then he just gone. Like it was just like woo, like peel and drag. And I was like, oh Jesus, like I can't believe this is happening, you know. And so he's just taking drag, get him in the boat. And that one, I mean, I was so careful. I got him up. I can't remember if that was like an 18 or 17 and a half, whatever it was. It was good fish. I think it put me in second, but again, I didn't even check. I felt as if I needed one more. And I'm like, so again, now there's like 15 minutes left. Like, as it turns out, I think it had me in second. And I'm like, again, how could I possibly catch another one? Worked all day. What are the odds? Drop down and just like dead sticking, kind of panicking a little because there's 15 minutes and I'm like not seeing a ton. There were swoops down there. There were definitely fish, but it wasn't like the big school. And I literally go like to start cranking up and just move up a few feet. And I cranked it like 4 times. And this is like one of the luckiest things of the whole day is so when I was fighting the fish, I never had my drag tight, but tighter to get a hook set because I was kind of just reeling into them, not hitting them super hard. And then I would loosen the drag like a lot, and just let them do what they're going to do, wear themselves out. I had 40 feet of water to work with. What are they, so long as they don't shake it.
Snagged up, wrapped around.
Yeah, So coincidentally enough, as I'm cranking up, he hits. And I had forgotten to tighten my drag back up, which I think if I had like cranking it in like that, he might have just ripped it off. And I was like, he just took it and starts peeling line again. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure, and I'd have to double check. I mean, like my brain's fried, but I think it was a 17.5 and an 18 or whatever it was. It was 2 big fish in the last 30 minutes. After losing one off the board for the second day, it was a different way, but lost 2 in like the last hour, both days that were like my only mistakes really that I was like, oh my God. And then it happened like that with like 30 minutes left. And it was just like, when I was going back in, I'm like, I can't believe that just happened. Like,
yeah.
And it was just like insane that it just turned on that last like half an hour, and it just, I mean, there's some luck there for sure, but it's like, if there's a lesson or a takeaway, it's just like you got to hang in. It's just you just never know, man. Yeah, and if you know you got a spot and they're there, like like sooner or later, it could happen. It's just like you just keep going, and it's I was real close just getting in full like meltdown mode, and it was just kind of like you just got to pull it together and go, and then it paid off. I got a little lucky and it just happened. So it was awesome though. I mean, super intense, and meanwhile, like this is all happening while I'm fighting like crazy chop and like water coming over the side at points, and I'm like, this is just mental, like, with the boat traffic and stuff. And like, it didn't even sink in what was happening until like a few hours later, I'm in my truck driving home and I'm just like, what was that? Like, the whole thing, it was just like, what just happened? Like that was crazy, so it was pretty intense, man. It was awesome. The way the whole weekend came together was cool.
It's crazy. Same batteries, same boat, same technique, same like kind of structure, deep, small. Yeah. Well, yours were mixed, and yeah, man, it's crazy. Y'all both found that pattern, held up 2 days, and it worked out for you.
Yeah, I don't think there was a guy out there with without a drop shot on. I think it was just a matter of, like I said, being able to have the confidence, like just to keep the bait there in front of them and not just pull it up and cast out. A lot of times drop shot, you cast out and they're trying to reel it up. You just literally have to sit there and then you got the people doing this, you know what I mean? Like it was literally just like not doing nothing, just waiting. And then half the time, it was funny, Mike just mentioned that. That's something that really stands out. All of my big fish, I hook it, I'm reeling it in, I'm like, oh, it's another spade fish or something else small I caught. And then every single one of those big ones I caught, like the 17 pluses, which throughout the 3 days I probably caught 10 of them. They all, just not all during the tournament days, unfortunately, but they just got right to the top, and then it's like as soon as they got like 5 foot from the surface, they just see you.
Other way.
They're out of here. And because you never knew, and then I caught like little smallmouth like this, and I'm like, oh, it might be a good one. It gets up and it like pops up out of the water.
Yeah, it's crazy. You talk about like the dead stick and everything. Like you Mike was talking about how it's hard to slow down, hard to be patient with it. The best days I've had on a drop shot were when I finally would throw it out there and just basically not pay attention to it. I mean, you're paying attention to it, but like I don't think about that it's tournament time, try not to worry about how much time it takes up. But that's when, like you were saying, like 4 or 5 minutes into it soaking, and then boom, you're like, oh, here we go.
Yeah. And
Same
I
thing
mean,
with sorry.
no, I was gonna say I think Mike might have mentioned with his rod and like the sensitive rod, like the St. Croix, like I said, it was just like an Avid X I was using. But most of the bites, like I had the live scope to see them, but even then, a lot of the bites, man, it was just like I just wait a couple seconds and just kind of feel like for weight, like, and then I would just check that, like, but like you, like honestly, a lot of the bites when they came on the bottom when it was dead stick, like I don't think that even with an NRX or anything, you would have like felt like what the deal was, man. I mean, they were just like putting it in their mouth and not even moving, and until you like went to lift up on them, you didn't know, and that's when it was kind of tough because some of those bigger ones, it's like, if you gave them a little pressure, they just kind of swam right up with it. And that's why, like, you didn't really get like good. You're like, what's going on? You don't even know if you have a fish, and then they're just like, oh, and then it takes off, And it was just strange, And again, without my my exact setup, without the spot lock, the Garmin and the live scope, like in my amped outdoor batteries, the copies keep the whole thing running. Like I really don't think you throw me in like the regular Hobie kayak I was fishing last year, just let me go out there with just a plain like I don't think I would have been able to finish that good, like not a chance. Not the way I was fishing anyway. I mean, Mike sounded like he found a couple good spots, like, but again, I was roaming football fields, just to take an individual fish out. Wasn't going to be able to do that without that stuff. So.
Well, now that we're at the end of the show, we always want to give everybody a chance to shout out anybody. It makes it easier for you. Ryan, we'll start with you. You said Amped Outdoors, the Old Town Sportsman, and anybody else you'd like to shout out?
Yeah, I mean, really, primarily Amped Outdoors because this is my second year going at this thing, and I'm just a newbie at I'd say going on, like I said, last year was my real rookie year going in the KBF and had a good run at this. But to get this first trail win on my second year into it, I feel pretty good about that. And Amped Outdoors really would be the big shout out. They gave me a sponsorship, helped me out a little bit with me being a nobody, no big victories or no big resume there, and now I finally got a win for them, which makes me feel good. Derek, he's sponsored with Amped Outdoors too. He's second place right behind me on day one.
Yeah, he had a great turn.
Mike. So I mean, Amped Outdoors is really pounding them in. So great batteries, great price compared to whatever a lot of the other people have out there. And if anybody's real interested in moving forward and they want to get a hold of me, I give you a little coupon code to get a discount if you want to send me a private message or something for it.
Oh, he brings discounts. We're gonna have to bring.
I like
it. Yeah, and then as far as other than that, it's just not sponsored with anybody else. It's just Old Town. That autopilot does work really well. Mike brought up a valid point though, and it's actually the same point that my dad has a Blue Sky, and he had a hard time. He had a couple giants, and they jumped right off his lap because on the Blue Sky you're sitting up on the chair, so you got that on your lap, and like, man, those smallmouth, like, it's a battle trying to take a picture of those things. They like, I'm literally both hands on them, and then I'm trying to like switch hands of the camera, and when I do that flop, it's brutal. And especially with those big ones. And I had basically to hold my I figured it out with Mike too. I don't know if you were doing this, but I kind of cocked my catch board in sideways, and I was kind of like taking a picture out of him at an angle just to get a quick picture on the board, and then kind of leveling them out, and then trying to like finesse it to make sure I got all my inches and all my quarters, and it was just it was difficult. And the thing about that is the only recommendation I have with the Old Town is, like I said, just the wider hole is probably my only negative about the whole boat. Other than that, I completely love it. I think it's an excellent product. The spot lock's on point. Everything about it I love, except you're a little narrow inside there, and the catch board doesn't fit down inside. And that's the only thing for me that's kind of a heartbreak, because some of the other kayaks where it fits flat on your floor, you got a big safety cushion. It bounces off, and you got like sideboards that he can't get out of. Because I tell you, more so than losing a fish on the line, you got a better chance of losing one jumping off the board, I think, especially with them smallmouth. So yeah, other than that, I mean, Garmin Electronics, not a sponsor with them, but they've come through for me more than once. I was actually on ABC. I think the story made it on the news. I was in Lackawanna State Park here, and I found a sunken car. And they ended up having made a big story, and they ended up pulling this car out, which was involved in a crime years ago with stealing ATMs and all kinds of other stuff. And it was there for like 10 years, and no one knew it was there. And I saw it on my live scope one day fishing a challenge, and I'm like, yo, there's a car right there. There's bass in it. I was trying to catch them, and no luck. But yeah, they ended up going and pulling that thing out the next day. So Garmin, Amped Outdoors, and my batteries, that's the deal for me. I mean, that's the trifecta, if you will, to make it all happen.
Very cool. How about you, Mike?
Well, this is my rookie year in KBF. So I mean, I have a first, a sixth, and 11th. So I'm probably right around top 20 or maybe a little better. So hopefully somebody
Somebody give this
give me
man a hug.
something. I mean, come on, man. And you know what's funny too? Like Ryan and I, a lot of similar setups. I run a Garmin as well. I just got the UHD. I had a smaller like Striker 5 on my Titan and upgraded. I mean, honest to God, played a major part. Like it really did, with the side scan and like I'd see fish, 40 feet to the right and like able to get on them way better than I would have, otherwise. So it's, we really had a lot of things in common, which is kind of interesting, with how the tournament went. And I think they all like really genuinely played. And I can say that like as a guy that's not sponsored, like that stuff really did come in handy and I think played a huge part in the win, and even some of the other guys that did well that you mentioned, run spot lock, have boats that can go offshore. I mean, it is an advantage, and I know there's a lot of debate about it with like, you have like the Hobie series that doesn't allow, and then, but to me, it's, everyone has that's why I made the switch. It was pretty clear to me that like if you like offshore fishing, that boat is just a mint setup, and it's about as good as you can do. I think personally. So no sponsors yet, but hoping maybe soon, maybe one day. I don't know. I got to keep winning, I guess.
You've already at least got a fan club with Rebecca Alvarez. So,
dude, if I can tell you the story about that because that is a. No, it's not. All right, I should tell you after because it's not. You'll laugh and I could blow up. All right, never mind. It has to do with a buddy who's running an account, and it's funny because it's I can't tell it. I mean, there's
PG-13. Keep it.
It's funny. It's funny. It's not dirty. It's just like if you knew what it was, you'd be like, "Oh my god, that's funny." Like it's, but I really probably can't. It involves the law enforcement, and it's a good buddy of mine that like I probably shouldn't say too much, but it's nothing bad, but it is funny.
Well, good job,
anyway,
thanks, John.
Good job, guys, and good luck the rest of the season. Hopefully, we'll have you back on. You'll win another one. Sounds like y'all all had a great season. So, I mean, I'm glad we were able to finally get y'all on.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Thanks for doing what you do. Too. The exposure is making it grow, and it's that's good for everybody. All of us. So,
no doubt. I mean, I like your show, you guys doing this, and I think it's goes on a little unspoken, and not and you guys what you're doing is really as Mike mentioned is really at the forefront of what's kind of leading kayak fishing and getting the PR that it needs to keep growing. So, appreciate what you do.
Well, we appreciate it. We just, I mean, we get to talk about fishing and get to highlight some people who had a great week and learn a little bit of the juice. And man,
you guys
this is great.
You guys are you just sit there and get all the guys on trying to get fishing spots and notes and all the stuff of all the good spots, and you just join the field, and no one's going to stand a chance of what's happening.
Yeah, you give me like 2 years of info, and you got
meet people, find out more information, and then maybe being able to go fish later. It definitely has its perks for sure.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate y'all guys, and y'all have fun, and we'll talk to you for too long.
All right. Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Take care.
As always, another great show with two great anglers.
Dang, I meant to ask him. I didn't look. I'm going to have to look. I was wondering if Lake George is like upstate New York. I'm not familiar with it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's New York. That's far enough for me.
Yeah, it's up.
It's all the same place to me. Well, you have like the city, the waterfall, and the rest. I don't know. All right. So as always, we go over the tournaments that were happening the rest of the week. First, you had the KBF Super Trail, and as always, we say that we keep it at 30 anglers or more for these tournaments because there's so many. But if you have a smaller club, holler at either me or Jimmy, and we'd be happy to talk about your club as always. First KBF Super Trail on Clear Lake 2-day event, 75 anglers. This was their big one, the 2-day one. Russ Snyder's went out there and kicked everybody's butt. 175 3/4. He did used to be. Where was he a guide? Was it Clear Lake or a Delta?
It was Clear, I think. I'm pretty sure it was Clear Lake.
I think so too. So I mean, the man knows the water.
He just had to come back home and make sure everybody knew he was still around.
Hey, do y'all remember me? I used to live out here.
I mean, how many people, honest to God, though, saw like siggned up for that event, saw his name, and were like,
Yeah. Yeah, why he doesn't have enough stuff to fish out there in Tennessee, and yeah,
I mean, he could stay out there if he wants to.
yeah, I'm sure he could. But yeah, I'd be okay. Mike Ensign second at 186.5. Greg Blanchard third, 184.5. Damian Towell, that guy's on a run, 182.25. And Taz Mua, that dude is also on a run. So that top five is just stacked. Yeah, I mean, those are people that you hear about every week, just killing it. Next up, one of the most interesting tournaments in the whole country, and only at 21 anglers, but the Tennessee Valley Kayak Anglers Chattanooga, they had their classic. That's a 3-day Ironman tournament. Like 3 days, you can fish the whole time, almost a whole 36 hours. You can fish at night the whole time. It's very cool. First place, Brandon Strock with 102 and 3/4 whooped everybody.
He's good.
Yeah, AJ McWhorter,
he got 5th in our event down here in Alabama. He's a killer angler.
Yeah, old Mr. Hobie himself, AJ McWhorter with 90.5, and Robert Barnett with 89 inches. And then Virginia Kayak Bass Challenge, Bass Challenge on Chickahominy River, 33 anglers. Steve Bishop first and with 85 inches. Rodney Williams, 78.25, and Bruce Deal with 74.5. So congratulations them. Next up, Buckeye Kayak Fishing Trail on Columbus Rivers, 55 anglers. Neil Farley, 74.75. Chris Hannigan, 74 inches, and Travis Von Newman, 73 inches. And then Queen City KBF, they had and they do this every year, Emerald Charity, it's for a school. That event was on Lakes Wiley and Norman, had 112 anglers, 4 fish limit. Number 1 was Lowell Brannon, 68.75. Again, it's only 4 fish. Joey Randall in second with 68 inches, and Frank Wolf with 62.25. Then you had Mo Yak on Pomme de Terre, 60 anglers. Brandon Beadle with 93.25. Tommy Propes with 91.75. So a huge gap there. And James Harding in third with 80 inches. And then you had Bam Bassin. That's a club down in Louisiana, and they're usually a smaller club, but this time they had 39 anglers. I think it's the first time we've ever been able to bring them up. I always see them. They do a lot of tournaments, but it's usually a little bit lower participation. So congratulations them having a big event. Derek Weber first with 85.75. Andrew Green with 81.75. And Adam Patron with 81 inches. Natural State Kayak Anglers on North Beaver. This was a Roadrunner, 55 anglers. Devin Asseri with 77 inches. Justin Brewer, 76. And Justin Kinsey with 75.75. Nebraska Kayak Anglers had an MLF style event, and it only had 13 anglers, but from 6:30 to 2 in this MLF style event, somebody had Pat Lasak had 412 inches.
God.
412. I mean, I would not want to be judging this dang tournament.
And you got to think about it. You think about when you're fishing, like let's just say your averages are like 14-inch, 15-inch fish, or like a bag full of 16s. That's still a lot of freaking fish.
That's a lot of fish. So I had to bring that one up. Second up, and so Pat Lasak had 412. Second place, Marty Hughes, one of the best anglers in the country. He had 297. So he got 130, 116 inches. That is ridiculous. And it's only till 2 o'clock too. It's not even like, a long day. And then last but not least, Michigan Big Bass Kayak League. They had their championship, 38 anglers. First place was Terry Horak with 19.5. Sean Dowling, 19 inches, and Alex Roberts with 18.5. So congratulations to all the winners. And yep, another good week. Get to talk about a interesting tournament up there and somewhere we don't ever get to fish. So yeah, it was
Just
fun.
puts another lake on my list of places I need to go.
Yeah, I remember seeing that one on one of Greg Blanchard's videos whenever he fished up there. I remember specifically, it's like he was fishing an island with a house. I can't remember, but he was fishing isolated boulders. It must have been a different time of the year. Because
I just want to try that. Like being able to see that much, pick out a fish like he's talking about, and I just want to do that. That sounds so cool.
It sounded like a lot of fun until you started talking about ice, and then you lost me.
I want to do that too. Like,
yeah, man, I was up in Maine for 6 months in the Air Force in Bangor, and it snowed in June. I said, "This isn't for me."
no, that's my kind of weather. Like we were in Wisconsin last week, and it got down to like 60 one night, and I was in heaven. I was like, oh.
See, I'm good with that, but it's really cold.
It just gave me a taste. It's, a cool, dry night, 60 degrees in August. I could be up there for you're driving past closed down ski resorts. I was like,
did you try the Spotted Cow? I've always heard about that beer. I've never had it. Oh, is that what that is?
Yeah, my buddy Hummel, he messaged me and said, when you're up there, bring me home 3 cases of Spotted Cow. And I was like, what? And then I went and tried it, and it's killer.
Is it good?
Yeah.
What kind of beer is it?
I honestly don't even know. Like, it has the most like non-informative label ever. And like, it doesn't tell you how many percent it is or anything. It is so like, just here's our brand, here's our beer. But it tastes like a domestic, like, full beer, like a Miller, but it's got way more flavor. But I bought a lot of it, so I'll bring you some because it's pretty.
All right, yeah, I gotta give you those reels. I gotta get that board. And he has my brand new catch board, that new carbonite board.
I forgot it because, like, I was out of town, and it's in my work truck because I was trying to bring it to you before I left. Yeah. And I opened up my work truck this morning and was like, oh, whoops. Bet you he wants that.
Now, we'll have to meet up one day this week. If you can. We'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I appreciate everybody as always. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again next week for another great show. And we'll have some more people from somewhere else in the country. So, as always, thanks for listening, and wear your PFDs.